For example, activities in extracting high-purity uranium, mass production and procurement of high-speed centrifuges, chemicals, etc., along with nuclear weapon research data obtained from Utai country by JECA Group, make developing nuclear weapons for a power like JECA Group akin to just a thin layer of paper. In the face of JECA Group's public announcement to conduct nuclear tests, the United Nations Security Council member states naturally voiced unanimous opposition, demanding that JECA Group adhere to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. JECA Group's response was also quite succinct, claiming that they hadn't signed it. It was other Southern Alliance member countries that did. The treaties signed by Southern Alliance member countries, what do they have to do with JECA Group? They're just an ordinary small company, and this treaty only states that national entities can't develop nuclear weapons, but doesn't say companies can't research and develop nuclear weapons on their own. This entirely dismissive evasion is JECA Group's attitude towards the outside. With so many countries possessing nuclear weapons worldwide, JECA Group asserts they don't mind being one more. Thus, on November 5th, under global condemnation and attention, million citizens under JECA Group's rule sat in front of televisions, computers, and mobile phones, nervously yet excitedly watching a live broadcast. And the broadcast content was set on an extremely remote, deserted island in Southeast Asia. At this moment, this previously desolate island was surrounded by numerous observation ships stationed offshore, and spy satellites in space orbits had all changed course, focusing on this previously unvisited island. When the time reached noon, on the deserted island, accompanied by a piercing light suddenly erupting, as if a scorching sun had fallen to earth, a dazzling day instantly arrived. A gigantic mushroom cloud expanded, like the roar of a fire god. As scorching waves swept across with deafening roars, the earth trembled, and the sea surged with waves upon waves. Structures, tanks, and abandoned ships placed near the deserted island also faced the baptism of shock waves and radiation, with numerous observation devices continuously operating to record nuclear explosion data. The rising giant mushroom cloud was seen by all nations globally, as the entire world seemed to fall silent at that moment, mute for several seconds. Meanwhile, the citizens under JECA Group's rule, especially Chan country's citizens, all raised their fists, jumping up and down in excitement. As the saying goes, only by having nuclear weapons can one stand tall and firm. JECA Group, as a true strong power, has nuclear weapons as its greatest assurance. From now on, JECA Group will no longer fear nuclear threats and blackmail. Subsequently, the live broadcast content shifted again, focusing on the intercontinental missile test. At a military base in Mande City, as the missile launch site set the missile upright and fired it, a huge missile several meters thick shot up, soaring into the sky. The world, with countless countries watching, saw the intercontinental missile, after launch, first undergo a few minutes of initial flight phase, then enter space inertial flight, finally re-entering the atmosphere, entering supersonic terminal flight, flying at over 20 times the speed of sound. This intercontinental missile flew a full 18,000 kilometers, over mountains and lands, across azure oceans, under the scrutiny of all nations capable of observation globally. The missile reached an uninhabited sea area in the South Pacific, falling onto a predetermined impact point set by JECA Group, with minimal deviation. This proves that JECA Group not only possesses nuclear weapons but also has the capability to drop nuclear weapons on the enemy's head. An abandoned island in Southeast Asia's nuclear explosion. Su Jie emerged from the building ruins, the roaring, gigantic mushroom cloud right before his eyes, soaring thousands of meters high, emanating an apocalyptic aura. The terrifying shockwave and thermal radiation could instantaneously kill any normal human. Fortunately, Su Jie was not an ordinary human. As Blue Star's only transcendent, Su Jie possessed the confidence to face humanity's most powerful weapon head-on. While others tested the power of nuclear weapons using various observational equipment and studying the destructive effects post-explosion, Su Jie chose to engage directly. The cheering Chan country citizens outside were all watching Su Jie's broadcasted speech on television, feeling exhilarated and overjoyed. In reality, it was just a pre-recorded video. Their great supreme leader had long since personally come to the abandoned island where the nuclear test was conducted, experiencing the power of the nuclear explosion firsthand with his flesh and blood. Glancing at his half-melted body, Su Jie felt a tinge of emotion. Indeed, my physical body still can't withstand being at the center of a nuclear explosion. I'd estimate that only upon reaching the Purple Mansion realm could I be completely unscathed. During the previous nuclear explosion, Su Jie avoided the very center of the blast region. The intense heat and overpressure there were something Su Jie could not withstand. Su Jie had already made a judgment that if hit in the center of the nuclear explosion, his entire body would be vaporized. While the Blood Sea Devouring Sky Demon skill does allow for blood-dripping rebirth, there still needs to be a drop of blood left. To completely ignore humanity's strongest weapon, one would need to advance to the great power of the Purple Mansion to be absolutely confident. However, the nuclear bomb now posed almost no threat to Su Jie, given his mobility. As long as he didn't act recklessly, staring unflinchingly as the center of the nuclear explosion unfolded, just avoiding the very center, Su Jie wouldn't encounter any danger. For Su Jie, that small area at the nuclear explosion center wasn't a threat. The missile launching the nuclear weapon couldn't fly faster than him. Whether dodging, burrowing, or slicing the missile carrying the nuclear warhead with a flying sword, or directly unleashing the Blood Sea, the nuclear bomb's most lethal damage simply couldn't cover him thanks to the vast Blood Sea he commanded. Such feats were effortlessly accomplished by Su Jie, and anything that couldn't kill him, Su Jie wouldn't fear in the slightest, just like now. With a mere thought, Su Jie regenerated his half-melted body, pale fingers wriggling beneath the skin and flesh, blood transforming into new bones and flesh, fully healing within a few breaths. With the Blood Sea Devouring Sky Demon skill at his disposal, the minor harm from a nuclear explosion was merely a gentle breeze caressing his face for Su Jie. Gazing once more at the mushroom cloud before him, Su Jie didn't linger, turning away to leave the deserted island, instantly diving into the ocean. Pacific Ocean, Mariana Trench. This is at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, northeast of Luzon, near the Mariana Islands, stretching from the north at Iwo Jima to the southwest near Yap Island, spanning 2,550 kilometers, with its deepest point reaching 11 kilometers, making it the deepest known spot in the ocean globally. If Mount Everest were placed at the trench's bottom, the peak wouldn't break the surface, showcasing the trench's profound depth. In such a high-pressure, pitch-black, and icy world, among Blue Star's most hostile environments, it has always been a life-forbidden zone where few animals are seen. The familiar shrimp, squids, octopuses, squid, and sperm whales cannot survive beyond 3,000 meters depth. Only small fish about the size of a hand, due to their unique body structure, can grow collectively in the deep-sea coral forest and on column star polyps, but even they can only live around 8,000 meters. As for beyond 8,000 meters, there have been no discovered fish living there. The deep sea has always been vast and mysterious to humanity, with the understanding and knowledge of the deep sea being less than 1/10 of that of the Earth's surface. Yet, in just such a life-forbidden zone, at 10,000 meters depth in the Mariana Trench, signs of life activity have now appeared. On the sea's surface, accompanied by a loud rumble, waves surged wildly, with Su Jie, wielding the divine firm sword, diving into the deep sea. The water pressure capable of compressing and exploding a human body didn't affect him in the slightest. Reaching the seabed at 10,000 meters, Su Jie paused his actions. In the pitch-black deep sea where one shouldn't be able to see their hand, now there was a source of light. Multicolored halos shone through the seawater, providing unprecedented brightness to this dark world. The source of the radiance was a structure that shouldn't have existed there. It was an enormous island structure suspended above the seafloor, with a gigantic yin-yang stele at its center. The stele soared 100 zhang high, inscribed with ancient runes emitting a soft, cold light, serving as the source of the underwater illumination. The island was exceptionally grand, with an overall structure resembling a gigantic turtle shell, divided into two distinctly colored regions in a yin-yang Tai Chi diagram manner, forming a white and a black area. In the east, golden Ganoderma and jade grass were growing, sweet liquid jade flowing, ancient trees towering into the sky, with hints of gold-tiled, magnificent palaces visible, ancient bells hanging high, and countless treasure light radiating everywhere. The Grand Tao heavenly sound drifted with the wind, resembling an underwater fairyland. In the west, miasma continuously rose, permeating a twisted architectural complex immersed in seawater. This complex was built with countless uneven gigantic stones, black and grand, adorned with dazzling carvings and twisted talismanic scripts, the corridors and steps covered in slippery moss. Amid the surging seawater, odd howls echoed, with strong, malevolent, unclean auras enveloping the entire architectural complex. The 100-foot stele stood at the very center where yin and yang intersected, looking extraordinarily brilliant. But upon closer scrutiny, it seemed like a solitary eye, vaguely staring at oneself, arousing an unexplained unease. Su Jie floated down alone, arriving at the top of this 100-foot stele. Up close, one would notice numerous pale corpse hands here, clutching various spiritual materials, bearing massive stones and spirit soil, busy around the island, continuing to perfect the structures here. Zzzzz. As soon as Su Jie arrived, a shadow swiftly darted into his arms, letting out a pitiful cry. This was naturally Su Jie's life-bound poisonous insect, the thousand-hand centipede. Compared to the past, the thousand-hand centipede was noticeably slimmer. It used to eat and drink worry-free, always kept plump by Su Jie. And this massive island before him was also a wonder constructed by Su Jie on Blue Star. Su Jie had obtained a secret technique called Mystic Sky Immortal Residence from Fire Cloud Palace, which could gather faith power through the construction of wonders, enhancing the strength of the primordial spirit. In the records of the Mystic Sky Immortal Residence, wonders were divided into 3 tiers, namely human Tao level wonders, earthly level wonders, and heavenly Tao level wonders. Human Tao level wonders were the weakest, while heavenly Tao level wonders were the strongest. The higher the grade of the wonder, the larger the range it could absorb faith power from, and the higher its efficiency in purifying faith power. For instance, the red shining immortal palace of Fire Cloud Palace was an earthly level wonder. Alright, I know you're pitiful, it's almost finished anyway. Once it's done, you won't have any work and can rest well, and you'll have plenty of insects. Su Jie stroked the head of the thousand-hand centipede, soothing its emotions. Zzz. Zzz. The thousand-hand centipede shouted, glaring at Su Jie with insect eyes as it had heard such promises from him many times before. What was supposed to be the completion of Phase 1 led to Phase 2. Then Phase 2 led to Phase 3, squeezing the poisonous insect endlessly. It was a killing machine, an 8th-grade poisonous insect. Not some construction laborer, it felt bullied. Cough cough, there's really no choice. If ordinary people were to build it, even with mechanical power, it wouldn't be so efficient. Plus, this wonder needs to be constructed in the deep sea. Blue Star humans haven't yet achieved this with their technology. Su Jie felt a bit guilty as he was being stared down by the thousand-hand centipede. The wonder before them was almost entirely built by its efforts alone. He could only admit that the thousand-hand centipede, with its ability to divide into thousands of pale corpse hands, had extraordinary talents in wonder construction. Su Jie merely provided the spiritual materials from the storage bag and the blueprints. The thousand-hand centipede could split into tens of thousands of pale corpse hands and proceed with the construction using spiritual materials. It's not like Su Jie didn't contribute. He frequently traveled to the deep sea to record talismans and array patterns on the wonder, the tasks that the thousand-hand centipede couldn't handle. However, compared to its workload, Su Jie's labor amounted to less than 1/10 of the thousand-hand centipede's. Thanks to the existence of the thousand-hand centipede, the wonder could be nearly completed within just 2 years, with an astonishingly high efficiency, consuming only around 100 tons of entry-level poisonous insects every day. The downside was that the thousand-hand centipede had grown noticeably slimmer, going from a round and plump figure to a much slimmer one for the sake of constructing the wonder. Zzz. The thousand-hand centipede rolled its eyes humanely, as every time, it was told that it was almost finished, yet it had been fooled too many times. This time, it wouldn't be placated without 1,000 tons of entry-level poisonous insects. Su Jie could only chuckle helplessly, soothing the thousand-hand centipede while touring this wonder construction. The island was filled with ancient formations and talismans, distributed among various peculiar buildings, ancient palaces, towering towers, deep caves, each exuding a breath of age and mystery. One of the most spectacular sights on the island was that enormous Yin-Yang stele. Occasionally, thunder darted above, emitting an indescribable oppressive aura, as if suppressing this realm. The Yin-Yang Sea Suppressing Palace was the name of this wonder, a human Tao-level wonder. Among the human Tao-level buildings described in the Mystic Sky Immortal Residence, this wonder held a prominent position. Just construction alone had Su Jie spent a cumulative total of 100 million spirit stones thus far. When compared to other simpler human Tao-level wonders, the cheapest ones required no more than 10 million spirit stones. There was, of course, a reason for the Yin-Yang Sea Suppressing Palace's exorbitant cost. As its name implied, this wonder held sea-suppressing might, drawing from the ancient divine beast Xuanwu's power to suppress the seas. It suppressed not only the sea but also the cultivators' physical bodies, primordial spirits, divine weapons, and spirit treasures. The Yin-Yang Sea Suppressing Palace divided into two domains of Yin and Yang, one representing the extreme Yang attribute spiritual power in the world, and the other the extreme Yin attribute spiritual power. On the Yang attribute side, those treasure grasses on the island were Yang attribute spiritual roots. The materials for construction of palaces were also meteorite firestones, thunder sound bamboo, and golden kuan trees, all Yang attribute materials. Even the recorded arrays and talismans were all of Yang attribute. The Yin attribute domain employed massive amounts of soul wood, cold se sands, and demon grasses. As Yin attribute spiritual materials, inherently creepy, constructing Yin attribute arrays that naturally grew particularly unsettling. And where Yin and Yang intersected, it represented ultimate balance, capable of transforming all things and suppressing them as well. However, suppressing the vast seas wasn't actually the primary function of the Yin-Yang Sea Suppressing Palace, nor was it Su Jie's intention in its construction. Looking at the near-complete Yin-Yang Sea Suppressing Palace, Su Jie instantly floated before the 100-foot stele, his eyes fixed straight on the stele. The myriad runes began to shine on the stele, and a blend of Yin and Yang aura gradually emanated. Dharma aspect chaos. Su Jie muttered softly to confirm his suspicion. Boom! In the next moment, Su Jie's primordial spirit leapt out, connecting with the Tao River, rapidly expanding and transforming into a terrifying creature. Its form was massive like a towering mountain, with wings on its back, lacking clear hands and feet, possessing a face that was merely a vortex, without any human features, and within the vortex an eye was faintly visible, black and red in color. After the Chaos Dharma aspect appeared, Su Jie controlled it to approach the stone stele, continually enveloping it, for the body of the Chaos Dharma aspect was not a typical flesh and blood form. Parts of its body were composed of flames, others formed of condensed water, yet some were of flesh and blood, its form constructed from Tao breath, matter, and energy. Thus it appeared as though this 100-jong stone stele was devoured by the Chaos Dharma aspect, disappearing within it. The 100-jong stone stele was actually the array-I spiritual artifact of the Yin-Yang Sea Suppressing Palace, representing the utmost expression of Yin and Yang changes. The myriad of runes upon it were all related to Yin and Yang. Now threatened, with Su Jie releasing his control, the defensive array of the Yin-Yang Sea Suppressing Palace automatically activated, attempting to suppress Su Jie's Chaos Dharma aspect. Su Jie could have controlled it, but he did not, allowing the Yin-Yang Sea Suppressing Palace to operate. Though the Yin-Yang Sea Suppressing Palace was not completely constructed, its primary functions were already in place. The 100-jong stone stele burst forth with black and white qi radiance, a massive Tai Chi diagram expanding and fiercely impacting upon the Chaos Dharma aspect. The Chaos Dharma aspect slightly quivered its body, its single eye blinking, causing the Tai Chi diagram to immediately collapse. Yet it quickly re-expanded, with Yin and Yang evolving along with it. Yin and Yang converged, leading to the formation of all things, as a surging flood came rushing over. This was not an ordinary mountain flood but one infused with the netherworld water Yin River, akin to a roaring black serpent. Wherever it passed, the deep sea water was dyed black, and the seabed eroded into pitted, honeycomb-like demon cave pits. Additionally, scorching flames erupted from beneath the earth, akin to accumulated geothermal magma over thousands of years, comparable to an underwater volcanic eruption, boiling and evaporating the seawater, creating massive shock waves that caused crests to ripple on the sea surface, forming a small-scale tsunami. Deep blue lightning appearing from the void, myriad electric serpents and thunder dragons ravaged every inch of space above the Inyang Sea suppressing palace. Their power not much weaker than Su Jie's original purple cloud heavenly thunder, bright lightning repeatedly striking down upon the chaos dharma aspect, transforming this deep sea into a sea domain of thunder. With each collision, the booming sound resonated throughout the deep sea, causing the entire Inyang Sea suppressing palace to shake. Its terrifying power indeed lived up to its reputation as a top-ranking human Tao-level wonder, causing countless cracks to appear on the surface of the chaos dharma aspect. More importantly, the black and white chi of the Inyang Sea suppressing palace rotated, enveloping a divine suppressive force, transforming into thousands of divine talisman chains wrapping around the chaos dharma aspect, making even Su Jie's chaos dharma aspect feel restricted, as if stuck in a mire, its strength continually bound, attempting to completely suppress the chaos dharma aspect here. Of course, the consequence was the rapid consumption of top-grade spirit stones stored within the array of the Inyang Sea suppressing palace. Because Blue Star was a spiritless environment, the Inyang Sea suppressing palace could not absorb the ambient spiritual energy from heaven and earth, and all energy came from spirit stone supply. For other Taoist platform realm elders, it's not possible to mobilize the core arrays of the Inyang Sea suppressing palace for a full-scale attack. Just maintaining the basic operation of the Inyang Sea suppressing palace daily would require tens of top-grade spirit stones each day, making it impossible to sustain such a human Tao-level wonder. Su Jie had once fought against the red shining immortal palace, an earthly-level wonder. By comparison, the Inyang Sea suppressing palace was much lesser in pure offensive power. However, its suppressive force was unique, something the red shining immortal palace lacked. If one were trapped within the Inyang Sea suppressing palace, most Taoist platform realm individuals would find it difficult to escape such suppression and captivity, being thoroughly subdued beneath the 100 stone steel and imprisoned here. The chaos dharma aspect silently endured the attacks from the Inyang Sea suppressing palace array, offering no retaliation, while Su Jie's face showed pain for the spirit stones consumed, yet also full of joy. Indeed, this is the manifestation of Inyang rotation. Mystic Sky immortal residence indeed didn't deceive me. It truly can assist in Yang God cultivation. Su Jie's lips curled up as he quietly savored the divine changes of Inyang during the outbreak of the Inyang Sea suppressing palace, contemplating the operational laws of those Inyang runes revealed in the void. The soul of the cultivator, regardless of their fear of sunlight and thunder during the divine soul stage, or reaching the primordial spirit stage capable of constructing a humanoid silhouette that can project outwards, or even the current God unification realm like Su Jie, all belong to the Yin attribute. But the Yang God is different. The extreme Yin turns to Yang, and when the primordial spirit is sublimated to the utmost to become the Yang God, that is the process of transforming from Yin to Yang. The Yangshin is extremely strong and Yang, impervious to all evils, akin to a great sun stabilizing the sky, assimilating all divine chi of heaven and earth, with a lifespan lasting 1,000 years. Above, it can cause the sun and moon to lose their path, stars lose their positions. Below, it can cause floods and droughts, all life perishing. The primordial spirit in the Yang God domain can not only use the Dharma aspect as a normal attack, but it can also separate from the physical body shell, living independently for a long time. Yangshin means the divine soul can freely live under sunlight and the scorching sun. Because at that stage of primordial spirit, it is inherently extreme Yang attribute. Not only is sunlight not a fear but can become an aid, able to absorb and charge in sunlight, as long as the primordial spirit doesn't decline, it can continue living indefinitely, even if it's difficult for cultivation to advance further. So when facing a great power of the Yang God level, destroying the physical body is not foolproof, as the opponent's primordial spirit can survive, and once a compatible body is found, they can seize and be reborn, continuing their path of cultivation. To cultivate into a yang god, one must have a profound understanding of the yin-yang path. Otherwise, you cannot achieve the process of transition from yin to yang and complete this ultimate sublimation. Many strong individuals at the God unification level, even if they stand at the pinnacle of God unification, ultimately cannot transform their primordial spirit and step into the yang god realm due to insufficient understanding of yin and yang. Su Jie originally intended to comprehend it himself, but then he read about the Yin-Yang Sea Suppressing Palace in the records of the Mystic Sky Immortal Residence. The Yin-Yang Sea Suppressing Palace is the ultimate wonder of yin-yang transformation, representing a part of the operational rules of heaven and earth's yin-yang power. It's recorded in the Mystic Sky Immortal Residence that some strong individuals built the Yin-Yang Sea Suppressing Palace, not for any other purpose, but specifically as an auxiliary structure for understanding the yin-yang path and breaking through to the yang god. Simply put, the Yin-Yang Sea Suppressing Palace is like a special building in a game that increases yang god realm cultivation speed by 50%. Su Jie calmed his mind and continued to ponder the magical transformations of the Yin-Yang Sea Suppressing Palace. Time passed by little, and through the Chaos Dharma form, Su Jie comprehended the mysteries of the yin-yang path, and his understanding of yin-yang transformations made rapid progress. 1 day, 3 days, 10 days, 3 months. In the blink of an eye, 3 months passed. Su Jie slowly opened his eyes from cultivation, and the Chaos Dharma form above his head. Its single eye had become distinct in black and white, resembling a Taiji yin-yang fish pattern. The path to Yang God has already shown its dawn. Now all that's missing is the power of belief, simply enhancing the strength of my primordial spirit. Once it reaches the pinnacle of the God unification level, I am confident of advancing to Yang God naturally. Su Jie murmured to himself, unable to suppress the smile on his lips. As for how to enhance the strength of the Yang God, remember that the primary function of building these wonders in the Mystic Sky Immortal Residence is to absorb emotions such as shock, reverence, and worship towards the wonder buildings, which generate the power of belief. By housing part of the primordial spirit within, this power of belief is directly absorbed by the primordial spirit, speeding up its growth and refinement, considered a miraculous external method for training the primordial spirit. This was Su Jie's initial plan for building the wonders, to accelerate the strengthening of the primordial spirit as quickly as possible. As for Blue Star, if nothing else is mentioned, its population is the greatest treasure, with abundant power of belief, and with the emergence of the Yin-Yang Sea Suppressing Palace, the power of belief will come pouring in. Su Jie looked around, and during his seclusion, the Thousand-Hand Centipede continued constructing the wonder, and now the Yin-Yang Sea Suppressing Palace is not far from completion. Buzzing sound. Seeing Su Jie come out of seclusion, the Thousand-Hand Centipede rushed to Su Jie's side, making a buzzing sound. Is there a toxic substance in the seawater damaging the Yin-Yang Sea Suppressing Palace? Hearing the words of the Thousand-Hand Centipede, Su Jie turned to look in the direction it pointed, seeing that in the Yang attribute area of the island, many Yang attribute spiritual herbs and trees were planted, which were capable of growing in the sea, brought over by Su Jie from the Tianyuan world, some of high grade, some of low. These spiritual herbs and trees absorb and convert the spiritual energy permeating the Yin-Yang Sea Suppressing Palace into Yang attribute spiritual power, maintaining the operational function of the Yin-Yang Sea Suppressing Palace. At this moment, some low-grade spiritual herbs appeared somewhat wilted, as if diseased, but this was not a problem. As long as the Yin-Yang Sea Suppressing Palace enhanced its supply of spiritual power, it could be quickly repaired, though it would slightly increase the consumption of spirit stones. Before coming here, Su Jie hadn't noticed these spiritual herbs becoming diseased. Upon sensing, he indeed felt a substance in the seawater. And this substance was not unfamiliar to him. Back on the abandoned island of the nuclear explosion, Su Jie had felt this aura. Nuclear pollution. Su Jie's mouth twitched. Nuclear pollution appeared in the seawater. And assuming a nuclear war hadn't occurred, a certain answer popped into Su Jie's mind. Damn, Japan is discharging nuclear wastewater again, isn't it? Japan ignored the doubts and opposition of the international community and organizations, once again forcibly initiating the nuclear wastewater discharge plan this year. According to the plan, Japan has already discharged about 185,200 tons of nuclear wastewater into the Pacific Ocean this year. The impact of this is global and long-term, marking a sorrow for Blue Star. Japan refused the request of the International Atomic Energy Agency to collect samples to confirm ALPS performance, ignoring the proposals of international nuclear experts to store the nuclear-polluted water using concrete. They still opted for the cheapest method of discharging it into the sea, which is utterly irresponsible behavior. According to data from the International Marine Monitoring Agency, the current East Pacific Sea area, affected by radioactive substances in the nuclear-polluted water, has led to a large accumulation of radioactive nuclides and heavy metals in marine organisms. Research data suggests the probability of genetic mutation, decline in species populations, and loss of biodiversity in the Pacific Ocean has increased by 800%. In a seaside vacation villa in Siam Bay, watching the news broadcast on TV, Su Jie's eyes grew colder. Just as he suspected, the spirit plant and spirit tree on the Enyang Sea Suppressing Palace were affected because Japan was discharging nuclear wastewater into the Pacific Ocean. These Japanese are really something, causing an accident in their own country but making the whole world pay for it. I heard that fishermen now often catch mutated fish, which is because of Japan's dumping of nuclear-polluted water. Sitting next to Su Jie, Liu Yingying complained, like many people who disapprove of Japan's behavior of dumping nuclear wastewater into the ocean. The ocean is a treasure trove for all mankind, and Japan acting this way is a joke on the health and safety of global humanity. Japan? Humph! Utterly reckless. Su Jie snorted coldly. The Enyang Sea Suppressing Palace was important to Su Jie, and Japan discharging nuclear wastewater into the ocean at this critical moment. If no one cares and lets Japan continue this way, in the short term, the consumption of spirit stones in the Enyang Sea Suppressing Palace will keep increasing, affecting Su Jie's spectacular plan. In the long run, the unbridled discharge of nuclear wastewater will lead to a decrease in lifespan and an increased risk of illness for global life, affecting population growth. And now Blue Star has been regarded by Su Jie as his backyard. Population is Su Jie's wealth. The more people, the greater the benefits Su Jie will gain on Blue Star in the future. Now Japan's actions are equivalent to poisoning Su Jie's own pond, and such actions are naturally intolerable to Su Jie. I will send a strongly worded statement to Japan demanding they immediately stop discharging nuclear wastewater into the sea. Upon hearing Su Jie's words, Liu Yingying couldn't help but speak up, preparing to act as the South Alliance to demand Japan stop the nuclear wastewater discharge. No, Japan seems unable to understand human words. They ignore the condemnation of major countries globally, persistently discharging nuclear wastewater into the sea. Verbal chastisement is useless. Su Jie shook his head. Japan has been discharging nuclear wastewater into the Pacific for years, but this year is the largest in history. The global verbal onslaught against Japan has never stopped, especially in Asia. Japan is condemned fiercely, and no country isn't angry about such behavior. However, Japan behaves like a dead pig unafraid of boiling water. No matter how the outside world criticizes and condemns, they have no intention of halting the discharge plan unless the beautiful country intervenes. But the beautiful country, at this time, chooses to turn a blind eye, allowing Japan to discharge nuclear wastewater. So what to do then? Declare war? Liu Yingying was taken aback. After the JECA Group's war with Thai country ended 2 years ago, it had been resting and recuperating for 2 years. To confront Japan directly now aligns well with Su Jie's character. With the military strength of the JECA Group, Japan cannot be a match for them. Defeating Japan has never been a problem. The issue is Japan's backer, the beautiful country. Japan holds different significance for the beautiful country. It's a country with a population of over 100 million, the 4th largest economy in the world, and the biggest blood bank for the beautiful country. It's hard to ensure that if the JECA Group gets involved, the beautiful country might not support Japan and choose to confront the JECA Group. War takes too long. Let's solve it by other means. Why can't humans learn by example, but learn once taught by circumstances? Once they know the impact of discharging nuclear wastewater, they'll naturally learn how to behave properly. Su Jie slowly stood up from the sofa, speaking indifferently. Beside him, Lu Yingying was slightly puzzled, guessing that Su Jie might use genetic warriors to solve the problem, so she didn't ask more. Su Jie walked out of the villa's living room to the private beach outside. The seawater here was as blue as wash, like a blue mirror, and the sand was fine and white, making it a top-tier vacation destination. Su Jie walked to the sea edge, stepping on the surging waves. The cold seawater submerged his ankles, feeling the presence of nuclear substances in the water. Su Jie's eyes filled with killing intent. Half a day later, midnight, Northwest Pacific Ocean. Su Jie stood on the sea surface, the surrounding seawater like it was bound by an invisible force, calming the waves, smooth as a mirror. Since you like discharging seawater into the ocean, causing biological genetic mutations, let's have you experience such backlash. Su Jie glanced at his palm, and a drop of holy blood secreted from his fingertip, dripping into the seawater. Is it here? Han Ruyan stood next to Su Jie. Here is fine, I'll try it first. Su Jie nodded, watching as the holy blood dripped into the sea. Blood from a higher life form. Even in the Tianyuan world, Su Jie's blood is genuine heavenly materials and earthly treasures, a great tonic in the eyes of demon beasts. Especially since Su Jie's blood sea-devouring sky demon skill has been cultivated to the 8th level. His blood had already been infused with a trace of primordial spirit power. This made Su Jie's holy blood extraordinarily potent, so much so that even a holy blood gene warrior could only bear a diluted amount. As soon as the holy blood entered the sea, countless sea creatures within a 10-mile radius suddenly felt an inexplicable strong desire, instinctively paddling their fins, frantically surging toward the direction where the holy blood dripped. Just because Su Jie's drop of holy blood was holy blood unsanitized of heart demons, capable of spawning blood demons in a natural environment, like a dangerous root of power. Su Jie watched silently as that drop of holy blood gradually merged into the sea. The bodies of nearby sea creatures began to undergo severe mutations. Tentacles tearing apart, teeth becoming ferocious, growing slimy tails and even wings. Yet more sea creatures, unable to bear the power of the holy blood, burst and died, with the exploded flesh devoured by other sea creatures, crazily devouring to gain more evolutionary power. However, the power of the holy blood was still too overbearing. Among hundreds and thousands of sea creatures, barely any survived. Seeing this, Su Jie pinched a spell and shouted, "Wife!" Han Ruyan slightly nodded. She waved her delicate hand. Invisible eerie power began to spread. Han Ruyan was an 8th-grade ghost bride. Her cursing ability strength was extremely publicized. Originally mutating and bursting sea creatures reached a strange balance under the influence of the curse. The mutation speed began to slow down. Seeing this, Su Jie gave a thumbs up to Han Ruyan. Still got to rely on you, wife. Your blood power is too overbearing. My curse weakens and neutralizes a portion, letting these fragile lives endure. Han Ruyan responded, focusing on those mutated sea creatures. Zizi, the thousand-hand centipede, unwilling to be lonely, drilled out from Su Jie's chest. It leapt into the sea, restoring its hundreds of meters long, mountain-like gigantic true form. Then, the thousand-hand centipede broke free and split some pale corpse hands, transforming them into flesh integrating into the sea, simultaneously aggregating nuclear substances in the seawater, fusing them with the flesh and nuclear substances onto those mutating sea creatures, making those mutating sea creatures more ferocious, evolving into terrifying forms, developing mutant organs, moving towards poisonous insect-like life, yet ultimately genes were unstable, not adjusted, basically devoid of further evolutionary potential. Thus, under the exhibition of one person, one ghost, one insect, this originally quiet sea gradually became a hunting ground of chaos. Innumerable head-numbing mutated creatures began to emerge in this world. Looking across, sea creatures originally in the water grew massively, becoming extremely fierce, constantly tearing each other apart, instinctively preying on their kind to compete for the other's bloodline, wanting to obtain more of Su Jie's holy blood to evolve themselves. Yet at Su Jie's cold snort, Instinctively, the mutated creatures immediately stopped their fighting, trembling in fear, having integrated with Su Jie's holy blood. In some sense, Su Jie was the creator of these mutated sea creatures. Even if they lacked intelligence, they would instinctively obey Su Jie's orders. Upon seeing this scene, Su Jie finally revealed a satisfied smile, waving a big hand. "If you want to hunt, go. I have designated a hunting ground for you." Suddenly, the sea surged with waves, countless gigantic tail fins, eerily twisted limbs. Slimy, ferocious tentacles churned the water, as if a storm arose in the sea, heading towards Japan. Zizi! The thousand-hand centipede shrank its body, flew back into Su Jie's arms, squeaked twice towards Su Jie, expressing it also wanted to go play, not wanting to build wonders anymore. "Be good. The wonder will be finished in a week. By then you can play as long as you want." Su Jie patted the thousand-hand centipede's head, watching the scene ahead of myriad things swimming. A thought popped into his mind. Wait, when the wonder is finished, wouldn't this be the best way to debut it? Thinking about this, Su Jie smiled slightly, seemingly thinking of something interesting. Night. In Taiji Town, Gashan County, Japan, it was once again the annual Dolphin Hunt Festival. Japan is a country very fond of hunting dolphins and whales, often internationally condemned, for killing protected dolphins and whales. Taiji Town is a place known worldwide for its dolphin killings. Every year, under the organization of a local fishing association called the Taiji Brave Fish Association, over 2,000 dolphins are hunted in Taiji Town, involving 9 species, including bottlenose dolphins, striped dolphins, gua head whales, Risso's dolphins. This act is met with unanimous opposition from the international community and animal protection organizations. Yet Japan likes to argue that their hunting of dolphins has a 400-year-old cultural tradition. But it's laughable. Japanese fishermen chase dolphin groups on motorboats. It couldn't possibly be that Japan had motorboats 400 years ago. In the dead of night, motorboats raced across the sea, bearing dark-skinned Japanese fishermen. Bam! 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 Upon reaching the dolphin-packed inlet, the Japanese fishermen plunged a long pole into the sea, continuously beating it to create waves of sound, frightening the dolphins, which rely mainly on keen hearing for survival. At this point, Japanese fishermen would board small boats, relentlessly driving the dolphins into a lagoon blocked by fishing nets. Startled, the dolphins swam frantically within the bay's cove, their blood dyeing the sea water red. Dolphins are highly intelligent animals, similar to humans in having complex social connections, often forming small groups based on family units, and these group relationships may last a lifetime. In the face of capture, mother dolphins warned their calves of danger and tried to protect them, often emitting extremely painful cries, leaping from the sea, and using their voices to warn their kin and offspring to stay away. The scene, with its desperate cries and shocking blood, appeared both tragic and bloody. Yet the Japanese fishermen were already accustomed to it, joking and laughing as they slaughtered dolphins with long hook knives, spearing them with sharpened long spears, then hauling them onto small boats, slitting their throats, cutting open their spinal cords, and leaving them to bleed to death. Due to severe blood loss and unbearable pain, the injured dolphins often lost their vitality. At that time, fishermen would haul them onto the fishing boats, slit their throats, or cut open their spinal cords. Many dolphins would be left on the boat to die naturally. In the bay, the sea was stained with huge patches of red, with countless injured, wailing dolphins bobbing up and down within. "Dad, today's catch is pretty good. Tomorrow morning these dolphins can sell for a good price. I've long wanted to buy a good car, and hope to kill more dolphins this year to scrape together the down payment." On a fishing boat, Matsushita Yujun laughed as he speared a medium-sized dolphin with a long hook knife, trapping it securely. Beside the boat, the mother of a young dolphin fluttered her tail fin, ramming the vessel back and forth, trying to rescue her child but powerless, emitting mournful cries. Young Matsushita Yujun, only 20 this year, had already been fishing at sea for 5 years, following in his fisherman's father's footsteps, and was well-versed in dolphin slaughter. For instance, he deliberately wounded a young dolphin, making it struggle in the water to attract the mother dolphin, thus creating wealth for himself. Matsushita Yojuin's father, Matsushita Shiyu, a rough-skinned middle-aged man, impaled the mother dolphin attempting to rescue her child with a stabbing spear. Laughing while dragging it onto the boat, he said, "Ha ha! This year's catch does look good. A bumper harvest of dolphins. If it weren't for those animal protection organizations protesting and affecting our fishing trips, I'd have saved enough to buy a car last year. Those fools, idle every day with nothing better to do. How does our dolphin killing affect them, blocking my way to make money? Don't they know how hard it is these days to fish normally? With all the nuclear wastewater being discharged, everyone's saying the radiation levels are over the limit, and nobody's buying our seafood anymore." Matsushita Yojun complained, filled with resentment at the protests of those animal protection organizations. "All right, hurry up and work. Left side. More dolphins. Go hook them onto the boat." Matsushita Shiyu waved his hand, directing his son to operate the boat. The boat quickly set in motion, heading toward the dolphin swimming area. Strange. Where did they go? When the boat reached this area, circling around, Matsushita Shiyu stood by the side, holding a long hook knife, swinging the searchlight over the sea. Earlier, he saw the water churn in fins, but coming over, he couldn't find any trace of the dolphins. Glug glug. Suddenly, the sea surged, and Matsushita Shiyu's eyes lit up, swiftly and accurately plunging the long hook knife into the sea. The sensation in his hand made him feel as if he'd struck something. But before he could rejoice, a tremendous force suddenly pulled at him, almost dragging him into the sea. The long hook knife slipped from his grip, and if not for his son Matsushita Yojun next to him, he would have been pulled into the water. "This is a big one. Fast, get the gear." Matsushita Shiyu exclaimed excitedly, pulling out a stabbing spear from the boat, his eyes locked on the sea. Matsushita Yojun operated the boat at the stern, aiming the searchlight at the sea. Under the searchlight, they could see the long hook knife Matsushita Shiyu had plunged in earlier swiftly slicing through the sea, breaking the waves as if something huge was swiftly swimming beneath. Definitely something valuable. Matsushita Yojun also lit up, accelerating the boat towards it, the propeller churning clusters of white waves on the sea. "D!" Matsushita Shiyu shouted fiercely, plunging the stabbing spear into the sea. The water suddenly surged violently, and just when Matsushita Shiyu thought he succeeded, he saw his small boat suddenly shake violently, seemed to be struck by something, making him lose his balance. "What's going on, Yojun? Steer the boat properly." Matsushita Shiyu angrily turned to scold his son. "Wait, Dad, something's in the sea." Matsushita Yojuin's pupils shrank. He had just seen a massive shadow passing under the sea, and if that wasn't enough, he vaguely saw a few spots of scarlet-red light, as if something in the water was staring at him. "Idiot, of course, there are dolphins in the sea. Why else would we come here? Has your brain been addled by the sea breeze?" Matsushita Shiyu was speechless. Then when he looked towards the sea, he also saw a large shadow swiftly darting beneath the water's surface. A shadow whose length and size couldn't possibly belong to a dolphin. Shark or whale? That thought just crossed Matsushita Shiyu's mind, and the next moment, he saw the shadow rapidly approaching his small boat, the sea surface surging with large waves. Splash! The sea split open, and a thick tentacle shot out of the water, wrapping around the boat. The tentacle was covered with green lumps, its suckers filled with sharp fangs, slick and fleshy, exuding a corrosive substance. The touch of the tentacle had the steel hull sizzling with corrosion, and with immense force, the 10-meter-long boat couldn't move, its propeller lifted out of the water. "What is it?" Matsushita Shiyu felt his scalp tingle, his hands and feet cold, staring in shock at the tentacle as thick as his calf, utterly petrified. But while he was in a daze, the movements beneath the sea continued, with several more tentacles emerging, entwining the boat and Matsushita Shiyu himself. As soon as he was wrapped up, Matsushita Shiyu let out a piercing scream, his bones crushed under the immense pressure, while the tentacles secreted a mucus, more terrifying than concentrated sulfuric acid, which touched his physical body, causing his skin and flesh to melt and corrode continually. In just a few seconds, the screaming Matsushita Shiyu fell silent, his entire body turning into a pile of mush. See, monster! Matsushita Yojuin's mouth gaped open, watching his father die tragically before his eyes. Turned into a heap of mush, fear overwhelming his mind, leaving him in a blank state. The tentacles writhed on the boat, dragging the heap of mush beneath the surface, seemingly feeding. Having tasted human blood, the enormous shadow beneath the sea approached even closer. Help! Help! There's a sea monster here. Please come and save me. Matsushita Yojun cried, seeing the shadow approaching from below, regaining a sliver of sanity, grabbing the radio and shouting, calling other fishermen over. Since they needed to coordinate to encircle dolphins, the fishermen kept in contact using the radio. Being in the bay, nearby fishing boats rushed over upon hearing the commotion. It seems something has happened to the Matsushita family. Hurry over and see. Sea monster? What nonsense is Yojun spouting now? This joke isn't funny. If I find out it's a prank, Yojun, you're done for. Most of the fishermen were villagers from nearby, all familiar with each other. They steered their boats, heading towards Matsushita Yojuin's location. Because the distance was short, the fishing boats quickly approached, and by the light of the searchlights, they saw Matsushita Yojun wildly waving, his face tear-stained, hysterically screaming in a breakdown. Where is Matsushita Shiyu? Did he fall overboard? Not seeing Matsushita Shiyu and hearing Matsushita Yojuin's anxious cries, everyone assumed someone had fallen into the sea. Bang! But just as the fishermen intended to assist, the sea roared with giant waves rising as tens of tentacles emerged, encasing Matsushita Yojuin's fishing boat. Matsushita Yojun too was ensnared by countless tentacles, crushed into a pile of mush. The fishermen stood wide-eyed, mouths agape, hearts stopping in shock. In the water, a creature over 20 meters long, with dozens of tentacles and a seahorse-like lower body, its tentacles resembling hair, appeared before them, an utterly alien and terrifying sight. Wah! What is this? What on earth is this? A sea monster. The Matsushita father and son are dead, killed by this sea monster. Quick! Report to the government. The fishermen were still panic-stricken, but the sea monster had already shifted its target, rushing toward them, with the turbulent sea claiming more fishing boats, drawing them into the water, turning fishermen into mush. Run! Run away! At this moment, the fishermen seemed to awaken from a dream, witnessing the ruthless killing of the sea monster. They frantically started their boats to flee. However, seemingly attracted by the taste of human blood, more shadows emerged from the depths, heading towards each fishing boat. Some shadows dragged boats into the sea, others climbed aboard, and some leapt out of the water, landing on shore. Vessel after vessel capsized, screams and wails echoed in all directions, merging with the previous cries of the dolphins. In the dark, none of the fishing boats in the bay were spared, all sinking to the bottom. The seawater turned ever more crimson, and with the waves, severed limbs and remains were washed ashore. In the darkness, indistinct shadows continued moving towards the beach, where the lights revealed their twisted and grotesque forms, far beyond any human comprehension of marine life, a completely new species. On the road leading to Dolphin Bay, several police cars sped past, their sirens blaring through the night. This was the police force from Taiji Town, mobilized due to international protests, where every year, numerous foreign activists flocked to Dolphin Bay to prevent Japanese fishermen from hunting dolphins and whales. As a result, the locals had become accustomed to the presence of these foreign activists, and a well-trained police force had been assembled to deal with them. Chief, we're 3 minutes away from Dolphin Bay. In the passenger seat of the leading police car sat a petite female officer named Nagata Mino, a fresh graduate from the police academy and a rookie cop, usually tasked with patrol and clerical duties. However, due to the heightened tensions at Dolphin Bay this time, she was deployed to join the police team on this mission. Little Yanai, remember, do not engage in conflicts with those activists. Just drive them away. If they capture footage and post it online, we'll face another wave of criticism. The team leader, Furukawa Masaki, adjusted his glasses and advised the rookie. Please, Chief, stop calling me Little Yanai. I'm already 22. Nagata Mino pouted, but her 150-centimeter stature and round apple-like face gave her the appearance of a middle schooler, rendering her words ineffective and inviting playful teasing instead. Haha. All right, Little Yanai. Furukawa Masaki's words made Nagata Mino roll her eyes in exasperation. By the way, Chief, about those calls we received earlier mentioning a sea monster. What's that about? Nagata Mino asked while checking her equipment, feeling a bit nervous as this was her first time on a potentially dangerous mission with the main force. Isn't it obvious? Those foreign activists are trying to scare away the fishermen to stop the Dolphin Bay activities. They'll do anything to achieve their goals. Furukawa Masaki chuckled, confidently sharing his thoughts. But the fishermen on the phone sounded anxious, and we couldn't reach them afterwards. This suggests that the activists have gone too far, frightening the fishermen. Furukawa Masaki shook his head, and then, as if something occurred to him, he glanced at Nagata Mino with a half-smile. What's the matter, Little Yanai? You don't really believe in the sea monster rumor, do you? Of course not. Nagata Mino awkwardly tried to smile, even though she had just thought about it. To avoid being teased by the chief, as they approached the iron gate ahead, Nagata Mino quickly changed the subject. Chief, we're here. A massive iron gate appeared ahead of the police cars. This was the only entrance to Dolphin Bay. To prevent foreign animal rights activists from entering, the gate was fitted with sharp spikes, and the area was surrounded by barbed wire and sharp fences, with warning signs indicating danger and prohibitions. On regular days, fishermen armed with knives would patrol here to deter activists from entering Dolphin Bay. If a video of the dolphin and whale hunts were to surface, public relations would become challenging. 7 to 8 police cars stopped, and about 30 officers disembarked, all wearing tactical vests, some carrying riot shields, tear gas, tasers, and even real guns, which was unusual for Japanese police. Due to past incidents involving extreme animal rights activists, resulting in chaos and injuries, Japanese police bring real firearms on Dolphin Bay missions as a precaution. As they reached the entrance of Dolphin Bay, Nagata Mino was startled. The massive iron gate was half-collapsed, seemingly battered by some force, twisted and blocking the path to Dolphin Bay. The fishermen who were supposed to be guarding the gate were nowhere in sight. These bastards have breached the gate again. Furukawa Masaki hurried forward, a serious expression on his face, realizing that this could escalate quickly, and he ordered, "Quickly, follow me to maintain order and prevent the foreign activists from causing injuries. Warn them with gunfire if necessary." As an experienced officer, Furukawa Masaki had faced similar situations before. These extreme animal rights activists would often storm the gate in their cars, and a face-off with the fishermen could easily lead to violent physical confrontations. With that, Furukawa Masaki vaulted over the collapsed gate and ran in the direction of Dolphin Bay, followed closely by the other officers. Nagata Mino, flashlight in hand, slipped as she climbed over the gate and fell. The flashlight slipped from her hand and rolled on the ground. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Clumsily, Nagata Mino got to her feet, bending to retrieve the flashlight. Whoosh! Just then, the flashlight beam lit up a small wooded area, where a shadow seemed to flicker past, vanishing in an instant. What was that? Nagata Mino recoiled slightly, shining the flashlight into the woods but finding nothing. It seemed she had merely imagined it. Looking at the surrounding darkness, the sea breeze rustling the leaves, Nagata Mino felt an inexplicable sense of unease, as if something was lurking in the shadows, watching her. Little Yanai, what are you doing back there? Hurry up and follow. Furukawa Masaki's voice shouted from ahead, urging the lagging Nagata Mino to catch up with the team. Okay, I'm coming. Nagata Mino didn't dare to linger. She turned and ran towards the team, yet failed to notice a pair of crimson eyes silently watching her back from within the forest. Why are you so slow? Furukawa Masaki looked at Nagata Mino, who was panting as she ran over, and tapped her on the head. "Sorry, Section Chief. I tripped and fell because I couldn't see the road clearly just now." Nagata Mino apologized, then asked, "Section Chief, are there any wild wolves around here? I think I just saw some large wild animal with my flashlight. I've lived here for decades, never seen a wolf, but there are wild boars. It might just be your imagination. Don't get paranoid when alone." Furukawa Masaki kept walking ahead without turning his head. Meanwhile, everyone was approaching Dolphin Bay. Close to the bay beach, a row of simple factory buildings was built here. Recently caught dolphins and whales are processed here by Japanese fishermen for preliminary treatment. During the fishing season, this place remains brightly lit throughout the night and can process tens of thousands of dolphins in a year. Additionally, many street lamps stand here on the beach, providing illumination for the fishing operations at sea. However, at this moment all these factory buildings were pitch black, including the street lamps on the beach being all turned off. There was no light, nor a single human shadow in sight, which was very peculiar. Have those foreign protesters cut off the power supply again? Go check the main power switch, a few of you. Furukawa Masaki frowned, looking towards the bay's sea surface yet failing to spot any light from a ship. Not having any ships on the sea was evidently extremely abnormal. Damn it! What have those foreign protesters done? Furukawa Masaki's face grew increasingly gloomy. If something went seriously wrong here, his career would surely be affected. What a strong smell of blood. Nagata Mino covered her nose, the intense blood smell assaulting her nostrils, making her feel very uncomfortable. Many dolphins were slaughtered here. It's normal for the smell of blood to be strong. Furukawa Masaki swung his flashlight across the sea, and indeed saw the seawater appearing murky red. But Furukawa Masaki didn't know that the blood which dyed the seawater red wasn't solely from the dolphins. "Let's go. Everyone inspect the area. Look around and find out where all the people here have gone." Furukawa Masaki spoke as he led the police into a spacious factory building. The factory interior housed many tools for slaughtering and dissecting dolphins with large iron hooks hanging overhead. Suspended upside down were carcasses of dolphins yet to be disassembled, making the ground sticky, filled with the dry stickiness of blood. Nagata Mino made a face of disgust yet had no choice but to brace herself and enter the foul-smelling dark factory. The group dispersed upon entering, wanting to find some fishermen to inquire about the situation. Nagata Mino also moved to one side, looking at the carcasses of dolphins muttering under her breath. "This is just too cruel. How can anyone harm dolphins like this?" A nearby policeman heard her and explained, "These fishermen are merely trying to make a living, whereas those foreign protesters are the real bastards." During the idle chat, Nagata Mino's ears suddenly twitched, hearing noises coming from ahead. Who is there?" "I'm a police officer. Don't be afraid." Nagata Mino shined her flashlight but saw nothing. The noise was approaching her, seemingly coming from the ground. Instinctively, Nagata Mino aimed her flashlight towards the ground. With that one shine, Nagata Mino's eyes widened in shock. Her face turned as pale as window paper, because the source of the noise was a human head, rolling out of the darkness like a ball. The dead fish eyes of the head seemingly still staring at her, giving Nagata Mino goosebumps all over and eliciting a shrill scream. "Ah!" The piercing scream attracted the attention of all the police officers present. "Little Yanai, what's going on?" Before anyone arrived, Furukawa Masaki's voice preceded him. Bir. Person." Nagata Mino stammered, pointing at the human head on the ground. She had never encountered such a situation as a fresh police school graduate. "You found someone? There's no need to get so worked up." Furukawa Masaki chided with a smile, walking to Nagata Mino's side, following her flashlight beam only for his smile to suddenly stiffen, a chill surging from his feet to the top of his skull, causing his entire body to shiver. He finally understood why no one was found at Dolphin Bay. A murder case had occurred at Dolphin Bay, probably committed by those extreme animal protection protesters who killed someone, scaring away the fishermen. A human head, Section Chief, I found a human head. Someone is dead." As Furukawa Masaki came to her side, Nagata Mino seemed to regain some courage, gripping Furukawa Masaki's arm tightly. I see it. Something major happened. Ban Tion, immediately lead people to secure and protect the crime scene. Huimei, contact the county and report the situation. Ask them to send the criminal investigation team over to investigate. Furukawa Masaki was a veteran cop. His facial muscles twitched slightly. After issuing commands, he squatted down, carefully examining the human head on the ground. This wound. Furukawa Masaki looked puzzled, because at the neck of the head, the fracture was jagged, not resembling a clean cut by any sharp blade, instead suggesting the gnawing of some beast's teeth. SEC. Section Chief. This human head rolled out on its own. The murderer might still be here. Nagata Mino spoke anxiously, causing Furukawa Masaki's expression to change dramatically. Why didn't you say it earlier? Everyone, the killer might still be on the scene. Stay alert. Just as Furukawa Masaki finished speaking, a sudden scream pierced the air. A lone officer seemed to be grabbed by something and was dragged into the darkness, his screams lingering until they abruptly ceased after a few seconds. Damn it! The killer is still attacking. Everyone gather quickly. Use the flashlights to find the enemy's position. Hearing his colleague's screams, Furukawa Masaki realized the gravity of the situation and drew the pistol from his waist. The other police officers were extremely panicked. They rarely handled such dangerous and violent cases. Those were for the criminal police department. Rustle. Rustle. In the darkness, something seemed to be moving. The tense officers frantically waved their flashlights, trying to locate the lurking killer. One officer's flashlight caught something. It was skin with bulging blue veins and a snarling fanged mouth, followed by a stench wafting over him. Bang! His body was dragged into the darkness, unable to even scream. Over there! The officers pointed their flashlights in the direction, but they were a step too late, failing to catch the killer's figure. Mr. Yamamoto was dragged away. Who the hell dares to attack the police? Haven't Morioka and his crew fixed the circuit yet? It's too disadvantageous without lighting. The officers became even more anxious, fear weakening their legs and draining their faces of color. Damn it! Furukawa Masaki was furious, astounded by the audacity of the enemy, who didn't flee after killing but continued to assault the police. Could it really be the sea monster? Nagata Mino, who was closely following Furukawa Masaki, cautiously uttered. Furukawa Masaki was about to refute when suddenly another commotion arose. The killer made their move again. An officer was attacked and dragged into the darkness. This time, prepared officers shined their flashlights over, and despite the factory being cluttered with hanging dolphin corpses, they managed to capture part of the killer. Distorted, pale growths dangled like grapes from its skin. 8 spider-like limbs clung to the wall. Razor-sharp fangs gleamed as they bit into the upper half of the officer's body, dragging him up the ceiling, blood dripping and staining the ground red. A monster. What the hell is that? Am I dreaming? Fuji was dragged away by the monster. I must be crazy. How can there be monsters in this world? The officers from Japan were dumbfounded. Even without seeing the whole form, it was evident that the enemy was not human. Bang! 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 At that moment, several gunshots echoed. Furukawa Masaki, the only one who responded, decisively pulled the trigger, bullets striking the monster crawling on the ceiling. Faint hisses could be heard. The monster, wounded, fled rapidly, and the attacked officer fell down, but only the lower half of his body, the other half had been taken by the monster. A chill enveloped everyone. Witnessing the monster firsthand was too much for their worldview. Everyone, retreat from the factory together. We need to withdraw. This isn't something we can handle. Furukawa Masaki reloaded while leading the team out of the factory. Other officers snapped back to reality, scrambling and stumbling out of the dark factory. Outside, it seemed like the gunfire had drawn the attention of something lurking in the darkness nearby. Monster noises echoed from around. Supervisor, we fixed the circuit. At this moment, The police radio crackled with the report from the officers who had been checking the circuit. Furukawa Masaki's face changed, but before he could stop it, rows of lights blazed on Dolphin Bay, banishing the darkness. Iugiha! It felt like Nagata Mino's brain would burst. Her body trembled, hands and feet cold as ice. On the beach, waves washed over numerous human corpses, shattered, dismembered limbs, severed hands and feet bobbing like balls amid the waves, heads surfacing and sinking, dyeing the water red, too many to take in at once. Hundreds had died here, turning Dolphin Bay, already small, into a blood-soaked horror, enough to make one retch. It really is the sea monster. Furukawa Masaki's very understanding was shattered. He had thought it was the killer causing the fishermen to flee, but it turned out there really was a sea monster. Due to the lights, not only did they see the gruesome scene on the beach, the monsters lying in wait also spotted them. Bang! The monster emerged from the factory first. Its lower body sported spider-like appendages, its upper body was turtle-shaped, but the neck and head resembled an eel's, as if an eel had been grafted onto a turtle. It was bizarre, lacking any typical sea creature form, ugly and terrifying, exuding a menacing hostility. "Open fire!" Furukawa Masaki shouted, pulling the trigger. The bullets hit the turtle-backed spider monster. They deflected off the shell but could cause damage to exposed areas. Other officers followed suit, relentlessly firing to vent their fear. Bullets struck the spider-legged turtle monster, splattering blood, enraging it further. The monster charged fiercely, knocking several officers flying, its legs grabbing one officer, tearing him apart on the spot. The gaping jaws clamped down, snapping yet another officer's neck. After killing several officers, its head was continuously hit, with some bullets piercing its mouth and penetrating the vulnerable brain. Thud! The monstrous creature with spider legs and a turtle shell wobbled and convulsed as it fell to the ground. Yet there was no relief on the officers' faces, as this was only the beginning. In the darkness, more monsters were rushing toward them. Boom! A crab towering 6 meters high, as large as a house, appeared. Its shell faintly shimmered with a metallic hue, and dozens of eyes stood up like a snail's, with pincers sharp as guillotine blades, cutting a person in half with a single pinch. An officer was caught by the crab sea monster and then stuffed into its mouth. The mouth, resembling a chrysanthemum, ground the person into pulp, swallowing the flesh. Meanwhile, bullets from pistols had no effect. The defense was astonishingly strong, far more terrifying than the previously slain spider-leg turtleback monster. Then appeared devil rays resembling marine rays, winged with feathers, gliding at low altitudes. Their slender tails sprayed venom, and upon contact with people, officers immediately turned pale, collapsed in pain, spewing black blood, poisoned to death in moments. There was also an electric ray over 10 meters long. Although called a ray, its body was covered in black scales, and it had a unicorn horn and 3 elongated triangular heads, capable of producing intense electric currents. Any officer approaching it would be electrocuted into a charred corpse, exuding the aroma of roasted meat, and then devoured by the ray's 3 heads. We can't beat them, absolutely can't. There are too many sea monsters. We need backup. Retreat, retreat quickly. Dozens of Japanese officers were scared out of their wits, watching their comrades and partners being brutally killed before their eyes. Seeing these terrifying sea monsters completely beyond their comprehension, the officers collapsed, crying for their parents, turning and fleeing. But behind them, the sea monsters, having tasted flesh, grew even more savage. Watching their prey escape, they weren't willing to let it go, pursuing relentlessly. Screams and dying wails of humans echoed through Dolphin Bay, along with the monstrous sea creatures fighting each other for food, emitting excited cries. Due to the lack of food, the sea monsters fought each other, giving the officers a slim chance of escape. Eventually, the officers' numbers dwindled along the way. By the time they reached the entrance to Dolphin Bay, only a few were left, with the others having all become prey for the sea monsters. Boom! The most fearsome crab sea monster, with its thick and solid shell, swung its pincers as it chased, snapping trees and streetlights along the way, causing the surviving officers to muster all their strength, running toward the parked police cars. "Get in the car, quick!" Furukawa Masaki was with Nagata Mino, and they were almost within reach of the police car, but he had no hope of getting in, because a massive pincer had already caught him, clamping his legs, swinging him toward the crab's mouth. Even though his hand had already touched the police car's handle, he could no longer board the car. "Chief!" Nagata Mino was terrified, her face pale with tears welling up in her eyes. "Report to headquarters, go quickly." Furukawa Masaki threw the keys to Nagata Mino, firing his handgun repeatedly at the crab sea monster's mouth and eyes. The bullets shattered a few eyes, but having dozens of eyes, the crab sea monster was hardly affected. However, this act undoubtedly angered the monster, which chose to crush Furukawa Masaki into several pieces with its pincers in fury. Nagata Mino seized the opportunity created by Furukawa Masaki, picked up the keys, got in the car, floored the accelerator, and the car sped away rapidly. Behind her, the gigantic crab sea monster chased briefly, unable to match the speed of the car, emitting a sibilant cry of disappointment and trampling several police cars flat in its rage. "Woo-woo, how can sea monsters really exist? What on earth is happening? Everyone is dead." Nagata Mino saw the sea monsters had stopped pursuing, leaving her the sole survivor, tears streaming down her face. "No, everyone can't die in vain. I must quickly report what happened at Dolphin Bay to headquarters." Nagata Mino wiped away her tears. Having lost her phone during the escape, she could only drive back to the city to gather people to eliminate the horrific monsters. The vehicle sped along the highway, and when she traveled a section of coastal road, the sound of surging waves was tremendously loud. "This is..." Nagata Mino turned her head to see billows of white waves in the sea, rolling several kilometers, as if thousands of sea monsters were stirring the waves. Seeing this scene, Nagata Mino opened her mouth wide, connecting all previous clues from the Dolphin Bay encounter. The massacre at Dolphin Bay, where hundreds of fishermen died, was not something a few sea monsters could accomplish. The number of sea monsters was far greater than imagined. They had left Dolphin Bay earlier, as there wasn't enough food there, allowing her to escape. As for the destination of these early departing sea monsters, if their food was humans, then where was the most food it had to be? Could it be that these sea monsters are heading toward the city? Nagata Mino trembled physically and mentally, discerning the direction of the moving tide, envisioning a horrifying possibility. If those terrifying sea monsters rampage into the city, the entire city would face catastrophic consequences. Just imagining it filled Nagata Mino with uncontrollable fear. "No, I can't let this happen." Biting her lip fiercely, Nagata Mino pushed the pedal to the floor, determined to prevent such a scenario from occurring. Gishan County is located on the southwest side of G Peninsula, the largest peninsula in Japan, facing the Pacific Ocean. It is bordered to the east and northeast by Mie Prefecture, Nara Prefecture, and Osaka Prefecture, with a coastline of approximately 650 kilometers and a population of over 1.3 million. It is a coastal city known for tourism and vacationing. At 5:30 in the early morning, a police car barreled into the Kashima Prefecture Police Headquarters building. What a sea monster attack! Inside the police headquarters, several Japanese policemen on night duty burst into laughter, looking at the petite female officer in a dirty police uniform in front of them, and couldn't help but tease. "It's not April Fool's Day today. Or are we saying Jurassic World has come to life?" Nagata Mino, flustered. "I'm not joking with you. There's really a sea monster at Dolphin Bay. Our section chief and his team have already sacrificed themselves. Do you want our efforts to be in vain? Quickly notify the police commissioner, sound the citywide alarm, and seek reinforcements from the government because the sea monster will soon land in Gishan County." Meet the police commissioner? As a little patrol officer, how dare you boast so loud? You should get decades of experience before saying that. If her information hadn't been verified, I'd have thought she was a lunatic. "A sea monster," she says. I'd believe her more if she said the Jekka group was attacking. The Gashan County officers laughed and saw Nagata Mino as a source of amusement, adding some fun to their boring night duty. No one believed what she said. If you continue to delay, Gashan County will be destroyed at your hands. By then, you'll have no chance to regret it. Nagata Mino was furious. She had rushed here at full speed to warn Gashan County, but her report was completely ignored, and the opportunity she fought for was being wasted. Did she drink too much? Gang Shu. Go test her for alcohol. She's talking nonsense. The Gashan County officers weren't concerned. Nagata Mino was just a small-town patrol officer in Gashan County. Hearing her say they'd regret it was laughable. A policeman walked over, ready to take Nagata Mino to sober up. This is footage from my body camera. The sea monster is real. If you don't believe me, see for yourself. In her haste, Nagata Mino finally remembered what she'd forgotten. She removed the body camera from her shoulder and played the footage back on its screen, simple and direct. The Gashan County officers were indeed drawn in, watching the footage from Nagata Mino's body camera. On the screen, there was a nightmarish replay from Dolphin Bay. Rolling human heads, spider-like creatures, house-sized crabs, flying devilfish, and three-headed electric eels. Gradually, the policemen looked at each other, speechless. Is this some movie trailer someone shot? One officer spoke hesitantly. That's Furukawa Masaki, the section chief of Taiji Town. Someone recognized Furukawa Masaki from the body camera footage. He was a veteran policeman from Gashan County, quite well known. The officers muttered a few words among themselves and tried calling the Taiji Town police station to confirm the situation. Hold on. Let me call the police commissioner. A moment later, the police officers, still doubtful, summoned their superior on duty, who then dialed the police commissioner's phone number. When the call connected, the officer had just said a few words when a furious roar came from the other end of the line. Baka, has water flooded all your brains? Sea monster? I think you guys are the sea monsters. You're police officers, not mediums. Use your brains to think. Can a sea monster appear? Why don't you say Godzilla has appeared? How did our police department end up with fools like you, wasting the brains you have? The police commissioner on the other end delivered a tirade before hanging up. The officers in Gashan County were utterly embarrassed, their faces red with shame. You idiots, wasting national taxes for nothing. The over 1 million citizens of Gashan County will die because of you. Nagata Mino, witnessing this scene, could no longer control her inner fury. She had already wasted a lot of time here, and precious time was running out. The Gashan County officers' faces darkened. They had just been scolded by the commissioner and now insulted by Nagata Mino, and they were planning to teach her a lesson. They couldn't do anything to the commissioner, but a small patrol officer could be dealt with easily. Ring ring. Just as the tension was about to explode, several phones in the duty room began to ring successively. We'll deal with you later. The Gashan County officers glared at Nagata Mino, then answered the phones. Hello? Hello? I want to report. There's a monster on the street. A real monster. Baka. I'm not joking. You police need to come quickly. A monster. A monster ate my mom and dad. Now it's coming for me. Boo-hoo. Hurry and save me, I don't want to die. The beach. There are monsters everywhere on the beach. They're eating people, eating people. Each call was filled with frantic cries, describing what sounded like hoaxes. The Gashan County officers looked at each other, then instinctively turned to Nagata Mino. It's over. It's already too late. Nagata Mino's face was pale. Her body swayed as if it might collapse, filled with despair. Meanwhile, on the coastal rocks and beaches of Gashan County, hideous mutant sea monsters emerged from the sea, stepping onto the land. They ranged from a few meters to several dozen meters without exception, their bodies undergoing large-scale mutations. Among them, some fast-moving mutant sea monsters had already rushed into the suburbs of Gashan County. Boom! A large mutated octopus sea monster slithered along the street. Its length was several dozen meters, covered all over with dense pus-filled blisters. The concrete ground it passed over was corroded and pitted. The massive sound startled the residents of Japan lining both sides of the street. The suburban area was filled with many single-family homes of Japan's residents, who immediately turned on the lights and opened the curtains and windows to see what was happening outside. But this curiosity was precisely what killed them. The massive compound eyes of the mutated octopus sea monster kept rotating. Dozens of huge tentacles stretched and spread, reaching over 100 meters long, sweeping towards those single-family homes, whose decoration and construction is making such a racket early in the morning. A fat Japanese lady pulled open the window and poked her head out to shout. Then, as she angrily shouted, she suddenly saw the figure of the octopus sea monster, resembling a towering flesh mountain as tall as 7 or 8 stories, with tentacles spreading out in a demonic dance in the air. Street lamps, landscape trees, trash bins, and benches were all crushed flat. Monster! The fat lady's lips trembled. Her eyes stared blankly as fear overtook her. She tried to turn and flee, but her legs gave way, causing her to fall to the ground. Before she could get back on her feet, a tentacle shot into the window with lightning speed, wrapping around the fat lady. No! No! No matter how the fat lady cried and struggled, her strength was far from enough to resist the tentacle, which forcefully dragged her out through the window. The top of the octopus sea monster split open, revealing an inside resembling a chrysanthemum, densely lined with sharp teeth, like the mouth of a lamprey. The fat lady was thrown in, and instantly she was like falling into a juicer, a fountain of blood spraying up 2 meters high, mixed with countless bits of flesh, adding a thin blood-red layer to the morning mist. Tentacles waved and wrapped around. Any human exposed near the octopus sea monster would be ensnared by tentacles, dragged back to become the octopus sea monster's meal. The tentacles of these octopus sea monsters then probed through windows and doors, searching for food inside the single-family houses lining the street. Every now and then, a Japanese person could be seen crying and screaming as they were dragged out, flung into the octopus sea monster's seemingly insatiable bloody maw. Inside the fat lady's house, her family heard the commotion and came out in pajamas to check. Her husband barely showed himself before being wrapped and dragged out by a tentacle. Her son and daughter-in-law were stunned in fright, screaming as they hid, frantically dialing the police station's number. But doom was not far off. The two were hiding under the bed, and once more a tentacle slipped through the window, exploring each room, the sofa, the wardrobe, and the bathroom. Even though they held their mouths tightly shut, making no sound, in the sea, octopuses love to eat crabs and lobsters. Octopuses can easily find and capture crabs and lobsters hiding in coral reef crevices, and this ability was not forgotten after mutation. The thick tentacle penetrated the bedroom, flipping the big bed into the air, and in the midst of their terror, the tentacle coiled around them like a giant snake, dragging them out of the house. Outside, the tentacles of the octopus sea monster wrapped around dozens of Japanese citizens, one by one feeding them into its mouth. Those caught and dangling in midair, waiting to be eaten, were so terrified their hearts nearly burst. The agony of awaiting death caused many to lose control over their bladder and bowels. The loud screams and commotion roused those nearby, each Japanese person witnessing the scene and frantically fleeing, driving various cars or rushing on foot to escape the terrifying octopus sea monster that treated humans as snacks. Where's Ultraman? Where's our Ultraman? Monsters have appeared. Why hasn't Ultraman come yet? Please, give me a ride in your car. I don't want to die here. Kid, hand over your car, or I'll stab you to death. Chaos was everywhere, and in the struggle for survival, the ugliness of human nature surfaced everywhere. Some fought and killed each other for vehicles. Some betrayed their girlfriends when octopus tentacles approached, pushing them towards the tentacles to protect their own lives. The appearance of the octopus sea monster was just the beginning. More and more monsters broke into Gashan County. As the octopus sea monster unleashed a massacre, a swordfish that could fly spread its wings, its head having a spear-like mouthpart, diving down at the crowd with deadly precision. Rip! In an instant, Several Japanese people were skewered like kebabs by the sword-shaped mouthpart. These Japanese people screamed miserably as the swordfish's mouthpart was covered in suckers. Blood was continuously drained from their bodies through the swordfish monster's suckers, and within a mere 10 seconds, they were sucked dry, discarded by the swordfish monster as it plunged towards the next batch of humans, seeking more blood. Then there was a sea star mutated from an echinoderm, about the size of a car, its surface dotted with spikes of varying lengths, covered with dense pipe-like feet, now spraying puffs of blue-purple smoke. Enshrouded in the smoke, the bodies of the Japanese people gradually became paralyzed, then fell to the ground. Though their bodies couldn't move, they retained feeling and consciousness, only able to watch as the sea star monster crawled towards them, covering their bodies slowly, bit by bit eating away at their flesh, feeling the pain of being devoured, dying in utter despair. More and more mutant sea monsters entered Gashan County, unleashing a massacre on the city. Gashan County has a population of over 1 million people, and the suburbs have already been slaughtered by sea monsters. However, many Japanese in the city are still unaware of the situation. At 6:40 a.m., daylight has broken, and the light of dawn shines upon the city. Some early risers, taking the morning commute, are preparing to go to work at their companies. A bus on Hushuin Avenue in Gashan County is fully loaded with passengers. However, they had not gone far when suddenly they heard a commotion ahead, and traffic came to a standstill. What's going on? Why is there a traffic jam? The bus driver cursed as the clamor grew louder. Countless drivers stuck in traffic ahead seemed to have seen something terrifying, panicking and running back on foot, streaming past both sides of the bus, baffling the bus driver. Bang! Hiss! Buzz! But soon, the bus driver understood why these people were fleeing in terror. On the street ahead, hundreds of grotesque and horrifying mutant sea monsters were relentlessly killing and devouring humans. Monsters, monsters! The bus driver stared wide-eyed, petrified. The passengers inside the bus were even more so. The bus was packed, and the atmosphere of fear made people squeeze against each other, trying to get off the bus. But the more they did, the harder it was to get out, as they were all pressed together and unable to move. Bang! A sea serpent tens of meters long slithered by, swiftly coiling around the bus. Its head burrowed into the bus like it was at a buffet, devouring the Japanese inside one by one. After it was full, its belly rounded several times. It lay contentedly on the ground, basking lazily in the sun as it digested the food in its stomach. Tens of thousands of sea monsters surged into Gashan County, finally awakening it to the threat. Not only did Gashan County sound the air raid alarms, but news of monster landings in Gashan County began to spread rapidly across Japan and even the entire world. The local police in Gashan County were urgently mobilized, armed and dispatched for duty. Hushuin Avenue was the area with the densest sea monster presence, near a densely populated residential area of Gashan County, attracting many sea monsters to come here for food. In Japan, counties are larger than cities. Gashan County, as one of the most important counties on the G Peninsula of Japan, has a police department with jurisdiction over 16 police stations. A police station is equivalent to a local police substation, and each typically has about 200 police officers. The entire county has over 3,000 officers, which is a fairly sufficient force. But since the incident happened in the morning, many officers had not yet started their shifts, and in Japan, police are not allowed to take their guns home after work, making it difficult to gather an effective force. Amidst the howling sirens, over 200 Japanese police officers from several nearby police stations were dispatched to Hushuin Avenue, which was all the available officers that could be mobilized nearby. However, when these Japanese police officers arrived at Hushuin Avenue, although they were somewhat mentally prepared, the sight before them turned the faces of these more than 200 officers ashen, with many vomiting. The bustling shops once throbbing with life were now mostly reduced to ruins. The once peaceful and clean streets were plastered with a thick layer of blood. On the cobblestone roads, bright red bloodstains and severed limbs intertwined to create a scene straight out of a dystopian nightmare, with wailing and cries lingering in the air. Mutant sea monsters were preying here, each with different forms, typically possessing some characteristics of marine life. These creatures, which previously only lived in oceans, not only landed on Earth but some could even fly. The surviving crowd was fleeing, with footsteps mixed with terrified screams echoing on the streets. Many mutant sea monsters had already eaten their fill, but some continued hunting. Unfortunate individuals marked by the sea monsters would soon become the monsters' delicious prey, as human flesh and blood were no match for these terrifying sea monsters. Open fire! Kill these monsters! Witnessing the horrendous human tragedy, the leading officer roared in anger. Every Japanese officer was filled with apprehension, but the guns in their hands provided a modicum of courage. Soon, gunshots rang out densely on Hushuin Avenue, as one Japanese officer after another raised their guns and shot, bullets striking the sea monsters. The few sea monsters at the forefront were instantly hit by a barrage of bullets. Though most were from handguns, the sheer volume was enough to quickly sap the life from these monsters several meters long, and they writhed before collapsing. Our police are finally here, now we're saved. Quick! Quick! Rush from the buildings to the police. Once there you'll be safe. Officer, I'm on the 6th floor. Come up quickly to save me. There are monsters below, and I can't dare to go out. The surviving Japanese on Hushuin Avenue, as well as those hiding inside buildings, were overjoyed and scrambled towards the police, some even jumping off buildings, breaking legs just to get police protection. And the police, fulfilling their duties, protected the civilians seeking refuge while clearing the sea monsters and advancing forward. However, their firepower and the gathering of a large crowd attracted the sea monsters' attention once again. Mutant sea monsters roared eagerly and swarmed toward them. As gunfire erupted, a terrifying octopus sea monster appeared on Hushuin Avenue. There are differences in the strength of sea monsters, and this octopus sea monster is as tall as an 8th-level building, far bigger than those sea monsters that are only a few meters in size. It is one of the strongest sea monsters to have entered Gashan County. Howling tentacles slammed down heavily, and in the stunned gaze of those Japanese police, a few officers were hit by the tentacles, instantly turning into bloody pulp. Not to mention the flesh and blood of the officers, even the police cars were flattened and tossed away by the tentacles. The terrifying and domineering strength is completely unmatched by human power. The Japanese police mostly had pistols in their hands, along with a few assault rifles and sniper rifles. But these light weapons were utterly insignificant in front of the octopus sea monster that stood as tall as an 8th-level building. The bullets felt like mere tickles to the sea monster. The octopus sea monster's dozens of tentacles flailed madly, flattening and crushing the Japanese police like playing whack-a-mole. Human bodies were like sandcastles on the beach in front of it, crumbling with a single strike. From a distance, the body of the octopus sea monster was like a moving steel fortress, so huge it was suffocating, and its tentacles were like whips, effortlessly shattering officers and police cars. Bullets. Bullets are completely useless. This is beyond what we police can handle. The self-defense team must be deployed. Where did these monsters come from? Do we really not have Ultraman? We're dead if we stay here, retreat quickly. Who ordered to open fire? That old guy should risk his life himself, earning hundreds of thousands of yen a month. Why endanger lives? Damn it! How can you police run? What about us if you run? Bastards, you useless cops. You have no blood courage at all. Let us on the police cars, please. Let us escape together. These police were taught a lesson by the octopus sea monster, and after dozens were sequentially crushed, the remaining Japanese police all collapsed. Everyone was scrambling to escape. They were only police, not a military force. Even a military force, facing such enormous casualties against an opponent with seemingly no hope of victory, would unlikely maintain cohesion. As these Japanese officers collapsed, thousands of Japanese people under their protection were left dumbfounded. Without the police's safeguard, they were instantly turned into targets for the sea monster's feast. Many Japanese who originally hid inside buildings might have had a chance for survival if they didn't run out. But because of their excessive trust in their police, they rushed toward the Japanese police zone, turning this action into the most regrettable decision of their lives. More mutant sea monsters joined the fray, launching a massacre against these Japanese police. This can no longer be called a fight but a one-sided slaughter. The entire situation in Gashan County was the same. As more sea monsters landed from the coast and entered Gashan County to feed, this city with a population of millions became a gourmet feast for the sea monsters. A large number of Japanese became snacks for the sea monsters, and the police force in the city either met death or disbanded under the sea monster onslaught. Over 1 million Japanese were either trembling in buildings, trying to make as little sound as possible to avoid attracting the sea monster's attention, or driving towards the outskirts of the city. All the roads leading out of the city were completely jammed by fleeing vehicles, and the gathering of such a large crowd naturally attracted more sea monsters, soon turning the streets into a field covered in limbs and forests of corpses. In just a single morning, at least half of the Japanese population in Gashan County had died. Meanwhile, the news of Gashan County being attacked by sea monsters had already spread across the world like a tsunami, fueled by news media reports. Japan Gashan County has been hit by a large number of monsters. Movies have come to life, and many Japanese have become monster fodder. Explosive. Monster invasion. Japan Gashan County is occupied by monsters. This is a completely new and unknown kind of monster. The World Health Organization is actively communicating and preparing to go to Gashan County for investigation and research. The beautiful country's Black Palace announced high concern over the Japan Gashan County incident, ready to step in and help Japan through the crisis at any time. As the sea monsters occupied Gashan County, news from this location spread around the world to countless households, capturing the attention of global onlookers. Ha, sea monsters! Japan attacked by sea monsters? If it weren't for the pictures and truths, along with news from various official media, I would have thought it was just a promotional strategy for some movie premiere. These monsters, looking at leaked videos online, though mostly deformed and terrifying, still show some features of marine creatures, indicating these monsters likely came from the sea. Sea monsters, brother, I thought of the Japan's nuclear wastewater. Could these monsters be related to Japan's nuclear wastewater emissions? Most likely. They are the only ones globally reckless enough to release nuclear waste into the sea, causing their own troubles. This is what you call self-inflicted. Asaba, those Japan's puppies, the monsters caused by your nuclear waste emissions. What if they land on our nation's coast? You must take full responsibility and perform seppuku as an apology. Baka, our nation has seen tens of thousands dead, and you're still here sneering. The ones to blame are those monsters, not us. Wachow! These sea monsters are absolutely heroes. Who said they're bad? Haven't they done a good deed? The online discussion is ablaze, with billions globally joining in, finding the explosive news unbelievable. Monsters that only appeared in movies before have now emerged in real life today, instantly causing a city's downfall with tens of thousands dead. In today's highly developed internet age, such a tragedy spreads worldwide in less than an hour. Journalists and media worldwide swarm to Gashan County like being on stimulants, eager to capture first-hand news. Even some fearless influencers rush to Gashan County, intending to seize this massive traffic opportunity. In Japan, with the confirmation of Gashan County being attacked and fallen to monsters, every Japanese received an emergency notification from the government on their mobile phone, and all TV stations urgently broadcasted news, warning coastal cities to stay alert. Simultaneously, Japan's Nikkei index plummeted due to the emergence of this news, with stock prices performing a dive, leading to the stock market losing trillions in yen within a day. Internationally, this incident drew global attention. All were bewildered and surprised by the events in Japan, not immediately suspecting nuclear waste as the cause, instead thinking perhaps Japan's biological experiments went awry. Japan's capital, Tokyo, Prime Minister's residence. Prime Minister of Japan, Shiuen Temple eating, sweating profusely, watched the helicopter footage of the battle in Gashan County on his computer. In the footage, countless mutant sea monsters rampaged throughout Gashan County, roaming urban streets and buildings, searching for prey, eating humans. Many buildings erupted in flames, with thick black smoke obscuring the city's skyline, resembling an apocalyptic scene. Climb up fast. There's a monster flying over. The video ended with a flying monster lunging at the helicopter. Amidst panic screams, the scene spun and went black, suggesting the helicopter's fate was grim. After the video finished, standing before Shiyuin Temple eating was the Sakura Defense Minister Sugiyama Hideaki, who reported solemnly, "Prime Minister, at dawn today, Gashan County was attacked by a large number of unknown monsters. These mutant monsters landed from the sea, numbering at least over 10,000, with a preference for eating humans. Gashan County's police system couldn't resist, fully collapsing. Now the entire Gashan County has fallen prey to these monsters, causing at least tens of thousands of local Japanese casualties. Tens of thousands dead. Unknown monsters landing from the ocean. It's almost like a joke." Shiyuin Temple eating turned pale. Tens of thousands dead. Since World War II, Japan hasn't seen such a massive loss of life, not even due to major earthquakes. "I wish it were a joke. But, Prime Minister, this is reality. Our Gashan County has indeed been overtaken by monsters." Sugiyama Hideaki spoke heavily, initially reacting similarly when hearing the news, thinking someone was joking. This isn't filming a movie, having monsters emerge from the ocean to attack cities. Isn't this the typical trope of Europe and America sci-fi films? But when his reporting subordinates spoke decisively, along with extensive on-site videos, Sugiyama Hideaki had no choice but to believe that Gashan County indeed fell. What's the origin of these monsters? Why did they come here? Why attack our city? Shiyuin Temple Eating's eyes filled with confusion and bewilderment, facing such misfortune during his term. Current scholars suggest these monsters resulted from marine life mutations caused by our nuclear wastewater. Sugiyama Hideaki stammered as he started speaking. After the incident in Gashan County, they naturally sought the origins of these monsters. Then they discovered that these mutated monsters had characteristics of marine life, and combined with their recent large-scale discharge of nuclear waste into the sea, this was one of the conclusions. Impossible, absolutely impossible. How could nuclear wastewater have such a powerful genetic mutation effect? If nuclear wastewater could create such terrifying monsters, they wouldn't just appear now. Europe and America have been discharging nuclear wastewater into the sea for years before we did. Why haven't they encountered any issues? Shiyuin Temple Eating completely refused to believe this explanation. He didn't think there was any problem with his country's discharge of nuclear wastewater. These monsters definitely had other origins. "Prime Minister, we are still in the dark. The truth is not yet clear. We at least need to acquire some of the monsters' corpses and test them to find out." Sugiyama Hideaki dared not say more. This was a very sensitive topic. "We will organize a group of biological experts to investigate Gashan County. You should immediately mobilize the self-defense team. We need to reclaim Gashan County and save the people there. Your military is confident, right?" Shiyuin Temple Eating took a deep breath. Now the only thing he trusted was his army. "This?" Sugiyama Hideaki hesitated for a moment. "What, are your military forces unable to deal with these monsters? Spending over $60 billion every year on military expenditure just for show?" Shiyuin Temple Eating snorted coldly, glaring at Sugiyama Hideaki. Sugiyama Hideaki chuckled awkwardly and said, "Prime Minister, those monsters are flesh and blood. No matter how strong they have their limits, even if they can resist bullets, they can't withstand artillery shells and missiles. But now those monsters occupy Gashan County, and there are quite a few surviving nationals hiding among them. If we deploy heavy weapons in Gashan County, it might cause many unnecessary casualties, and there will be a domestic uproar. Then dispatch troops into the city to clean up, reduce the use of heavy firepower. Gashan County must be reclaimed. The whole world is watching us. The longer we wait, the more we lose face globally." Shiyuin Temple Eating insisted he had to quickly resolve the Gashan County incident, as it related to his career. "Yes, Prime Minister. I will go down and arrange the operation plan to reclaim Gashan County." Sugiyama Hideaki looked troubled, but he reluctantly nodded. Shiyuin Temple Eating slumped in his chair, his face showing deep fatigue. In recent years, Life in Japan has become increasingly difficult. On one hand, Japan's proud automotive industry has seen sales plummet due to the impact of JECA Group's biological battery. JECA Group also controls the maritime routes of Eurasia. Japan's goods passing through the Malacca Strait and the Kra Isthmus Canal incur high fees, which for resource-poor Japan, heavily reliant on importing resources, adds to their economic burden. On the other hand, beautiful country, the elder brother in the contention with JECA Group, has not only failed to gain the upper hand but has faced frequent setbacks, and when the elder brother suffers, the little brothers naturally have an even harder time. Although beautiful country drew a share of blood from the capitalist of Utai, it didn't prevent beautiful country from increasing its economic blood-sucking from Japan in recent years, causing Japan's economy to weaken. Now with the Gashan County incident, Shiyuan Temple Eating, overseeing this great ship of 130 million people, constantly feels like walking a tightrope. A small misstep could lead to an economic crash reminiscent of the bubble economy. No matter what kind of monster it is, we must swiftly resolve the situation in Gashan County. Shiyuan Temple Eating's eyes were sharp, when suddenly, the phone on the desk rang. Seeing the phone number, Shiyuan Temple Eating's eye twitched. It was a call from the Black Palace of beautiful country. A call from the Black Palace at this time gave Shiyuan Temple Eating a foreboding feeling. After connecting the call, and with a few exchanges, Shiyuan Temple Eating's face turned increasingly grim. Finally, after hanging up, Shiyuan Temple Eating paused for a few seconds, couldn't help cursing, "Baka, beautiful country, you go too far." Japan's land self-defense force is divided into 5 regional teams, equivalent to 5 army groups, with a total of about 180,000 personnel. The troubled Gashan County is under the jurisdiction of the Central Region Force of the Self-Defense Team, with subordinate units including the 3rd Division, 10th Division, 13th Brigade, 14th Brigade, 8th High-Altitude Special Group, Central Region Air Force, 4th Engineer Group, and 2nd Education Group. The closest one to Gashan County is the Japan Land Self-Defense Forces 3rd Division, one of Japan's 9 major divisions, with a total personnel of about 6,400. The main combat force consists of 3 infantry regiments, making it a typical light infantry unit. When this over 6,000-strong unit set out to the outskirts of Gashan County, the area was filled with fleeing civilians, blocked streets, and black smoke billowing in the city's air, occasionally accompanied by the faint roars of monsters, making many Japanese soldiers gulp nervously, their hearts pounding. The entire division, listen to orders, advance towards Gashan County and clear the monsters within sight. Under the command of the 3 RD Division's commanding officer, Nomura Shuo, the Japanese soldiers of the 3rd Division could only brace themselves and advance towards Gashan County. Leading the charge were Japanese soldiers driving Type 16 assault vehicles, followed by a large contingent of accompanying infantry. However, the Japanese soldiers soon found it difficult to drive the armored vehicles into Gashan County. Due to the rush of Japanese fleeing the city by car back then, large numbers of vehicles blocked the streets, making it extremely challenging for armored vehicles to navigate. If time permitted, they could slowly clear the roads to create a safe passage, but now the military required a swift resolution of Gashan County and the rescue of surviving civilians inside, leaving them no time to proceed slowly. With no other choice, a portion of Japanese infantry entered the city first, while engineer units cleared the streets to provide passage for armored vehicles. However, this marked the beginning of a nightmare for the infantry of the 3rd Division. Upon entering Gashan County, the Japanese soldiers soon found survivors. Self-defense team, our self-defense team is here. I'm here, right here. From the high buildings, surviving Japanese waved sheets with SOS written on them, excitedly shouting to attract the attention of the passing Japanese self-defense team below. However, their shouting not only attracted the Japanese soldiers but also summoned a mutated monster. Underneath the building where the survivor was, a mutated monster, previously curled up alone and asleep, awoke. Go in and rescue them. A few dozen Japanese soldiers hesitated for a moment, reported the situation to their superiors, and then entered the building. The ground floor was heavily stained with blood, tables and chairs overturned, but no bodies were found. Be vigilant, exercise extreme caution. Under the tense atmosphere, the soldiers proceeded step by step towards the upper floors. Nothing unusual was found in the lower floors. No monsters were seen, nor were any survivors. What's this? One Japanese soldier, upon entering a room, felt something squishy underfoot. Looking at his shoe, he found a light green slime. While still confused, he felt a cold, sticky sensation on his head, coming from above. His expression stiffened slightly, and the Japanese soldier instinctively looked up, only to be seized by a tremendous force before he could see anything, lifting him uncontrollably into the air. Crunch! Accompanied by chewing sounds, flesh and blood splattered, bones shattered, and a blood-stained rifle fell to the ground. Enemy! The surrounding Japanese soldiers, eyes filled with horror, saw a giant monster clinging to the ceiling. Its body was 5 meters long with gray-black skin, as rough as ancient rock eroded by countless storms, covered in intricate cracks and elevations, resembling the skin of a certain type of stonefish. Where it should have had fins, it now had human-like limbs, and its gaping mouth was currently chewing on the twitching Japanese soldier, while its formidable eyes watched them intently, sending shivers down the spines of the onlooking Japanese soldiers, their heartbeats quickening, involuntary fear rising within them. The Japanese soldiers suddenly faced death, having never been on the battlefield before. They were still in shock. But the Grouper C monster would not hesitate. Its mouth shot out a thick tongue, piercing through a Japanese soldier's head, dragging it back to its mouth to chew, blood dripping, covering the ground. Bang, bang, bang. After losing 2 people in a row, the Japanese soldiers finally snapped out of it, raising their rifles in fear to aim at the Grouper C monster, squeezing the trigger tightly without letting go. The sound of rifles firing echoed through the hallway. Bullets fired at supersonic speed, drilled into the Grouper C monster's body. The sea monster's skin erupted with fist-sized bloody holes. It screamed in pain, angrily charging into the crowd, biting a Japanese soldier with its mouth, shaking its head madly, tearing him in half alive, crushing the heads of 2 Japanese soldiers with its humanoid hand limbs, while its thick tail swung, hitting a Japanese soldier, collapsing his chest, causing him to vomit blood and fall into a corner, dying as he exhaled more than he inhaled. However, the destructive power of modern human weaponry was too strong. The Grouper C monster was hit repeatedly in a short time, eventually falling to the ground wailing, twitching and struggling, its flowing blood staining the house red. The Japanese soldiers fired continuously again, until the Grouper C monster was riddled with holes, confirming it was no longer moving, and finally breathing a sigh of relief, many Japanese soldiers only then realizing their backs were soaked with cold sweat. Although the engagement time was extremely short, just now there were as many as 5 soldiers killed, which was an overwhelming shock for the Japanese soldiers who experienced this for the first time without actual combat experience. It's dead. The monster is finally dead. We won, we killed the monster. Matsushima, Fujita, Hung Chuan, Ingrin, Agama are all dead. A group of Japanese soldiers panted heavily, some showing relief at surviving. Some were fearful of their comrades' deaths. Some were excited for having killed an incredibly powerful monster. Okay. Check the ammunition, we don't have time to linger here. Continue searching upstairs. Everyone remember, shoot immediately when you see a monster. Don't hesitate for a moment, or this hesitation will likely cost you and your comrades' lives. A Japanese officer patted the soldiers on their shoulders, boosting morale, saying, "Everyone has seen. These monsters are not invincible. They too are just flesh and blood. As long as it's a carbon-based life form, it cannot withstand our firearms. Victory is surely ours." This speech somewhat boosted morale, seeing the corpse of the Grouper C monster on the ground. As long as the hot weapons were effective, they could achieve victory. But these Japanese soldiers weren't happy for long. The sound of their gunfire attracted the attention of more mutant sea monsters. All around, indistinctly, the sounds of roaring intensified, while faintly enormous footsteps were heard approaching. The faces of the Japanese soldiers changed drastically one by one. The monsters are coming. Quickly organize a defensive line. An alert Japanese soldier shouted, and just as he finished speaking, from the sky, A mutant sea monster with a nearly 10-meter wingspan swooped down, grabbing the alert Japanese soldier, flying to the rooftop of a nearby building, savoring him amidst his screams. Boom! A vicious mutant monster with an upper body like a lobster and a lower body like a sea snake appeared in the neighborhood. A few Japanese soldiers just spotted it. Before they could aim and pull the trigger, the mutant monster's mouth split open, spewing out a large mouthful of dark venom. This venom, like concentrated sulfuric acid, directly corroded the skin and flesh of the Japanese soldiers on contact, revealing their gleaming bones, their eerie screams amplifying the sense of unease tenfold. Nearby, there were also many soldiers from the 3rd Division. Upon seeing this scene, they all felt their scalps tingle. A monster, an even stronger monster, is here. Why are you still in a daze? Hurry up and shoot it to death. Baka, fire with all your might. Exterminate these bastards. Amidst the officers' furious shouts, gunfire erupted densely. But this lobster monster's shell was very thick, ordinary rifle bullets could not penetrate it, and the bullets bounced off. The lobster sea monster moved sinuously, charging into the crowd fiercely, its body over 10 meters long, giving immense power to each of its movements. The massive snake body smashed people into complete bone fractures, squeezing out their internal organs. Its mouth kept spitting venom, able to reach distances of up to hundreds of meters, corroding numerous Japanese soldiers, causing scream after scream, akin to being burned by white phosphorus bombs, even corroding through the bones. During the slaughter, the lobster sea monster's upper body swung 2 large claws, gripping a Japanese soldier's legs, lifting him upside down, exerting force to both sides. No, don't. The Japanese soldier being grabbed seemed to sense something, crying out in terror, but his cries were futile. The sea monster did not comprehend sympathy. Rip! In the next moment, the Japanese soldier's legs straightened, tearing from the crotch. His entire body was ripped into 2 halves, with his viscera and blood gushing onto the ground. The bloody and brutal scene stunned many nearby Japanese soldiers, even causing quite a few to have their stomachs churn, uncontrollably bending over to vomit profusely.